In this video, we'll be looking at an in-depth overview of the SportScope app. If you don't already have the SportScope app on your iPad, make sure that the iPad is connected to the internet and go to the App Store. Search SportScope, 2 words, to locate the app. We won't be downloading the SportScope Live app, which is a different service. Tap on Get to download the app. Once the app has been downloaded, if the system is fully connected, the first step is to connect to the SportScope network from the iPad's Wi-Fi settings. On your iPad, go to Settings and find the appropriate SportScope Wi-Fi. Connect to the network using your password. If you have a smart camera or Edge replay system, the password can be found inside the top of your Pressbox kit hard case or Sideline kit hard case. The password is the same for both access points. If you have a wireless end zone camera system, the password is on the top of your router. If this is your first time using an iPad with the system, or your first time setting the system up, it's best to double check that the SportScope app's necessary permissions are enabled. Go to your iPad settings screen, and on the left side, scroll down to Privacy. Ensure that Location Services is turned on. Next, on the left side, scroll all the way down to the bottom and look for SportScope. Ensure that Location is set to Always, and Local Network is set to On. Note that if Location isn't allowed, the app will say No Network, and if Local Network isn't allowed on the app, it will say Not Connected. Once all of your settings are correct, and you're connected to the SportScope Wi-Fi, we can take an in-depth look at the SportScope app. The first thing to check in the app is the Wi-Fi you're connected to at the top of the screen. It should be in green and display the name of the access point you're connected to. To the right is the app version number. We'll discuss that in more detail later. To access the menu, tap the list icon in the top left corner. The home page is where you control your cameras and view recordings for each of your angles. If this is the first time your iPad is using the system, you'll see a demo game, which doesn't let you use the system. First, we have to create a new game from the Games menu, which we'll discuss more later. On the home page, you have the control bar on the right side. By default, this control panel is collapsed. Tap the up arrow in the bottom right corner to expand it. If you have a smart or wireless camera, this will bring up a live feed, assuming your end zone angle is on the center screen. If it's not, tap the picture-in-picture window to swap screens. To activate the controls, place your thumbs on the left and right sides of the screen. The joystick on the right controls pan and tilt. The plus-minus controller on the left controls the zoom. If you have an Edge replay system, you should only see a black screen with the current status of your camera angles, unless you've turned a live feed on, which is an option we'll discuss later. If you have a smart or wireless camera system, you'll see a power icon on the top of the control bar on the right side. If you only have Edge Replay, you won't see this icon. This allows you to turn a Sony camcorder on or off if it's connected to a blue smart or wireless camera head. Next, the gear icon opens a smaller menu, which will allow you to adjust a number of settings, such as clipping settings. This is a feature that wouldn't be used for football, but might be useful for other sports, such as soccer or lacrosse. Using Auto can have the system automatically clip the recording to specified durations and pause times in between. Set the pause time to 0 to get a constant stream of clips in succession. However, please note that for auto-clipping in this way, we highly recommend you limit the record time to a maximum of 30 seconds. Using Manual, the system will use your specified recording time and then stop until you manually hit record again. Pause time is not relevant when using Manual, so it can be ignored. Off is the default selection. Next is pan and tilt settings for smart and wireless camera systems. If you only have Edge Replay, you won't see this section. You can adjust the speed of both the pan and tilt motors, flip which side the pan and tilt controls and zoom controls are on, and also invert the pan and tilt controls. Below these settings are the Record to Camera and Record to iPad settings for the wireless or smart camera. These toggles allow you to choose whether you're recording to an SD card in the Sony camcorder or record to the iPad itself. We highly recommend that football teams only use the Record to iPad function and don't turn on Record to Camera. The reason behind this is a limitation with our Zoom cable's connection to the Sony Handycam. If Record to Camera is turned on, and the recordings are short, successive clips like you would do for football, there's a high likelihood that the zoom function will stop working in the middle of a game. The Record to Camera feature is intended for other sports, such as soccer or lacrosse. For these sports, you must turn off the Record to iPad slider and turn on the Record to Camera slider so that long-form footage is recorded to the microSD card in the Sony camcorder. The Record to iPad feature maxes out at a 2-minute clip length. And for longer clips, the loss of zoom controls is no longer an issue. So to review, Record to iPad is to be used for shorter clips, such as football, to avoid loss of zoom functionality, and Record to Camera is to be used for longer clips, such as soccer or lacrosse, to avoid the clip length limit. Next on the home screen control bar is the Refresh button, which is a helpful tool for older smart and wireless camera systems. If you have one of these systems purchased from 2018 and the video becomes delayed, try hitting the refresh button to reset the video feed. Below all that is the big red record button, which allows you to record clips to the iPad or Sony camcorder, depending on the recording setting you've selected. Underneath the record button is the Cam Assist button, which is only available for football game types and is covered in more detail in its own Help Center articles. Last are the ODK options. By default, these are only visible for games created for football. They'll also disappear when auto-tagging is turned on, which is in the tagging menu discussed in detail later. These ODK buttons allow you to tag the current play by offense, defense, or kicking. The Undo button on the left side will move the smart or wireless camera back to its previous location. In the bottom left corner, there's a Broadcast button. This is used to start a live stream to YouTube, Facebook, or another streaming platform. We'll go over this in more detail when we talk about the Broadcasts page later in this video. Once you've recorded a clip using Record to iPad, the clips will appear at the bottom of the page. Note that you can only watch replays if you have a replay license, such as with a smart camera or Edge replay systems. For the wireless camera, the thumbnails for each recorded play will appear below to show you how many clips you've filmed, but you won't be able to watch the playback within the app. There will be a message about the lack of replay license in its place. Rest assured that even without a replay license, you can still export and upload these plays out of the app once you've finished recording, which we'll discuss how to do later in this video. The arrow in the middle divider can be used to expand the list so that you can see more clips at a time. Again, assuming you have our replay license installed, when you select a clip, the video will play on the main screen above. You can start and stop playback by pressing the play-pause button, fast forward and rewind, change clip speed, and go to the next or previous clips. The picture-in-picture window is used when you have multiple angles, such as with the smart camera or Edge replay systems. Tapping on the picture-in-picture window will switch the main view angle so you can see the recording from multiple angles. On the left-hand side near the bottom, there's an arrow. If you open that menu, you can see Draw, Tag, Sort, Stats, and Favorites. With the Draw function, you can draw over clips with 3 different colors: blue, red, and yellow. Mark the clip how you want, then press Save. This will save the drawing to that clip for later review. You can also press Whiteboard to bring up a blank white screen to draw on. Just like the other feature, you can save it to the clip. A watermark icon will appear at the top of the clip on the bottom of the screen, showing that the clip has a drawing saved to it. Pressing the Undo button undoes the last thing that was drawn. To view drawings after you've saved them, select the clip, tap on Draw, and then Screenshots, and then select the drawing you want to view. This automatically gets shared to all iPads on the network, so a coach can draw on a play, and another coach can go to that same play on his iPad and view the screenshot. Next is the tag function. Tagging is how you make custom tags for clips, which can be applied to whichever clip you currently have selected. You must provide the tag name, but the export category is optional. The export category is an option that allows you to provide a category name that you can use once your ODK data is exported off the app into a computer in a CSV file, so that you can sort tags by category later. To take advantage of this option, you'll need to match the category name exactly for each unique tag within the category. The tag name must always be unique. You can't have any tag names identical to one another, or they'll get overwritten. The tag name will also be sortable once it is applied to a clip. The sort function is a way to filter clips that meet certain criteria. Note that sorting by multiple criteria attributes is exclusive, not inclusive, meaning that if you sort by multiple attributes, only clips that possess all of the attributes will appear. For example, if you sort by offense and first down, it'll show only the clips that are both first downs and offense. If you sort by offense and defense, no clips will appear, because it's not possible to have a play that is both offense and defense at the same time. You can also sort by your favorite plays and any custom tags you've created. If you've been using our in-depth tagging features, the stats page is a great place to view the culmination of all recorded play statistics. The right-hand side shows the stats for each team in each category. On the left-hand side, you'll have the ability to filter the stats by certain criteria. In this short example, there are 6 plays, kickoff, and the first series of a game. There are 2 plays on 1st and 10, 1 on 2nd and 5, 1 on 3rd and 5, and 1 on 2nd and 8. If we go into Stats on the left and filter by second down, you can see under Example Team that there are 2 plays matching that description. If we narrow down the criteria even further to filter plays down to both second down and with yards to go between 4 and 7, you can see it filtered down to 1 total play. In an actual game, these stats on the right side would have more information, such as total yards, passing, and rushing. While you can filter manually, you'll usually be using preset shortcuts or tapping Next Play, which automatically filters by down and distance and field position for the next play in the game. This is an extremely useful tool for seeing your opponent's tendencies and maybe even predicting what their next move will be, allowing you to adjust your play accordingly. The Favorite function is a great way to mark a play that you want to focus on later, either for review or just to show off a particularly great play. A favorited play will have a star that appears on the clip at the bottom of the page, and it's easily sortable from the sort menu. On the right-hand side of the screen, there are ODK buttons and a tag icon. The ODK buttons are additional quick access buttons that you can use to easily tag the play you're viewing as offense, defense, or kicking. The tag icon opens up the in-depth tagging menu. For a full walkthrough of in-depth tagging by down, distance, field position, auto-tagging, and many other functions, please see our How to Tag a Game Help Center article, which has its own video walkthrough. To close the tagging menu, tap the tag icon again. Now that we've reviewed all the features on the home page, next in the menu is the Games page. The Games page lists all available games currently stored on your iPad or stored in the smart, wireless, or Edgebox computers. You can tap on any existing game to go into that session and review any of its downloaded clips, assuming you have a replay license. You can start a new game by tapping on New, which will bring up the New Game starting menu. At the top of this menu is your sport. If you're filming football, which is the default, you can move on to the next step. We'll discuss other sports later. The replay type for football will be manual start and stop, which can't be changed. You can set the location to home or away to keep better track of your games. Your team name will be saved once you've typed it in for the first time, but you'll need to update the opponent's name each time you start a new game. Input the appropriate team name and avoid any symbols such as a slash or a period. Note that today's date will automatically be applied to the name of the game, so you don't need to provide the date. If you have multiple camera angles, make sure that both cameras say ready and are both highlighted in white. Note that here you have the option of deselecting a camera angle if you don't want to use it in a game. Finally, you can tap Start Game to initiate the game. If you're not using the system for football, select Other Sports as the sport. Here you'll have the option of changing the replay type. In almost all circumstances, this will remain as manual start and stop. DVR is an experimental feature with minimal uses. Location, team names, and select cameras are all the same as before. However, if you have a wireless or smart camera system, and you've selected Other Sports, you'll notice that the default preference for Other Sports is to have Record to Camera and Record to iPad off, and these toggles are available for you to change here on the New Game Starting menu. In most cases, when filming other sports such as soccer or lacrosse, you'll want to select Record to Camera, which will automatically turn default preferences off since you're now setting your own for this particular game. Remember that Record to Camera records to the SD card in the Sony camcorder, since Record to iPad cannot be used for any clips longer than 2 minutes. If you'll be recording short clips repeatedly for whatever sport you'll be filming, we recommend selecting Record to iPad and recording to the iPad instead. We highly recommend not having both selected at the same time to avoid potential zoom issues with the smart or wireless camera. Returning to the main view of the Games page, you can also tap Select in order to bring up the Share and Delete options. When you tap Select, you can mark one or multiple games at a time. When deleting games, we recommend selecting multiple games at a time. For sharing, it's best to only share one at a time. The Share option is how you'll upload a game by exporting all of its clips off the iPad and onto a computer or service such as Huddle or QuickCut. This feature is discussed in more detail in the How to Upload articles of our Help Center, each method with its own accompanying video walkthroughs. The Delete option is how to clear stored games from the iPad, as well as from smart, wireless, and edge computers themselves. You must first select one or multiple games you'd like to delete, which will be indicated by a checkmark on each. Next, tap Delete, and you'll notice 3 options: From iPad Only, From Camera Only, and From Both. Before moving on, please note that our smart camera, wireless camera, and edge boxes all have their own computers that store clips separate from the iPad. From iPad only deletes games that are saved to the SportScope app on this iPad only. It does not delete it from other iPads. To delete the same game on multiple iPads, this process needs to be repeated on each iPad. From Camera deletes games off of all currently connected edge, smart, or wireless camera computers. From Both deletes games from both the app and your currently connected computers in your edge, smart, or wireless boxes. The recommended option is From Both, but you must have the system connected to delete from both the iPad and any computers. You don't need all of the equipment set up to accomplish this. If needed, you can use the condensed setup as an easier way to connect your devices for deletion. Remember that the game will still exist on other iPads that have the same game, so you'll need to delete them from using From iPad Only at some point. As long as the game has been deleted from the boxes, you can delete these extra copies of the game on other iPads at any time, and the system doesn't have to be connected. Also, please be aware, if you've shared games to the iPad, as shown in our separate upload video, the clips shared to the Files app on the iPad will not be deleted by these options. To delete the exported clips in the Files app, you'll need to go into the Files app and delete them separately from the SportScope app. The next page in the SportScope app is the Cameras page. Cameras is the go-to page for seeing the current status of your smart, edge, or wireless devices and changing their settings. Here you can change the name of the camera angles, see the version number of the device, see the status of the device, and check on your Replay, Wireless, and Cam Assist licenses. You can also control the bitrate of downloads, but 2 megabytes is recommended. Also in these options, you can toggle the live feed for each camera angle, which usually isn't recommended. As long as the equipment is connected correctly, you cannot turn off the live feed for a smart or wireless camera device since it's necessary to control those systems. However, an Edgebox's live feed setting is off by default, and it's recommended to keep it off. If you have an Edge 2-view or 3-view system, and you don't have a smart camera, turning on the live feed for one of your camera angles is acceptable, but still not recommended. This will allow you to see the live feed of that angle on the home page. On this page, there are also buttons to shut down, restart, or upgrade each device. These buttons only apply to the device that is currently selected, which is indicated by a white box on the left-hand side. Shutdown is the recommended option to turn off each device before unplugging it at the end of your recording session, and Restart will shut down and restart the device on its own. Upgrade will update the firmware version of each device if you have a version available. You won't see the upgrade button if your device version is already up to date. This is a good time to mention the app version number at the top of the screen. This is the current version of the SportScope app on your iPad, not the version of your Edge, smart, or wireless device. If you see a message on the Cameras page that says Upgrade App, this means that your SportScope app version is out of date and needs to be updated from the App Store. You must have an internet connection to update the app. The SportScope network is not connected to the internet, so you'll have to switch the Wi-Fi to a school or home network. Next, you might also want to turn on clipping settings for each angle if you're filming with a sport other than football. If you're using clipping settings with a multiple camera angle system, please note that you should set the record time and pause time identically for each angle so that they're not different when you start auto-clipping. If you have a smart or wireless camera, you'll also see the pan tilt settings. These are the same settings that we saw from the cogwheel menu on the home screen, which can also be adjusted here on the Cameras page. In most cases, the default settings should be used. Adjusting these without speaking to support can cause your system to perform poorly. An example of this is the live feed toggle. You should only ever have one camera angle that has a live feed turned on. Multiple cameras sending live feeds will slow down your system, causing lag, and your clips will download much slower, meaning your replays will consistently be behind, and your smart camera controls will lag. Increasing the bitrate can also cause these lag issues. The broadcast page is used for customers wanting to live stream games for an Edge, smart, or wireless box over the internet. It's important to know that we highly recommend that you do not use the Use SportScope Live option. Instead, we recommend using the SportScope Live app, which is a separate service. In order to broadcast with the SportScope Live app, you must speak with a SportScope representative before using this option for the first time. As it was mentioned earlier in this video, with Use SportScope Live toggled off, you can stream to YouTube, Facebook, or a similar platform using a stream URL and a stream key for those platforms. More information and instructions on how to do this is available by contacting customer support, as you must also have an iPad to Ethernet adapter in order to utilize this functionality. The Preferences page allows you to control settings within the app for each iPad. Adjusting settings on this page will not affect the same settings on other iPads. Starting at the top, there's a Show Playback PIP window option. When it's toggled on, you'll see a small window appear on recorded clips to switch between angles if you have multiple cameras. When it's off, there will be a button with text for that angle instead. You can also adjust the size of the picture-in-picture window. Below that, you can choose where that picture-in-picture window will appear on the screen. Next on this page is Automatically Download Clips. This should be on by default. When this is on, after a clip is recorded, it'll immediately begin trying to download to the iPad. When it's off, you'll need to manually download all clips to that iPad. Each clip will have a blue download arrow over it, which you'll have to tap in order to manually download each clip. The next setting is the most commonly used preference, the Enable Live Feed toggle. It's a good idea to disable this for all replay iPads, so that those iPads can't accidentally pull up the live feed seen by the control iPad. If you have a wireless camera system, only one iPad should be connected to the entire network, so this setting can be turned on regardless. If you have a smart camera or edge replay system, the control iPad must have this setting turned on, but it's recommended that all other viewing replay iPads turn it off for optimal network performance. The next option is Loop Play, which is off by default. When it's turned on, once a clip has been started, it'll automatically restart after you've watched all the way through to the end instead of pausing. Last is Show Video Player Only When Mirroring, which is on by default. It's relevant when connecting your iPad to a monitor or TV. When the iPad is hooked up to a TV or monitor, and this setting is on, you'll only see the main video player with the clip. You won't see any of the control features and icons as seen on the iPad. When the setting is off, you'll see what the iPad is displaying on the TV or monitor, such as the play, pause, fast forward, and record button. The help page runs through most of the same information being discussed in this video, but it can be viewed at any time. It's a great resource, and we highly recommend that you check it out. The troubleshooting page is a QR code that you can scan with your smartphone's camera. This should take you straight to our Help Center page on our website. We highly recommend using this to solve most issues, as the Help Center can answer most troubleshooting problems with a simple search. It can also be found on most search engines by typing in SportScope as well as the issues you're experiencing, such as SportScope not connected or SportScope camera offline. Finally, the System Info page allows you to scan your network using the Scan button in the top right corner. Be patient, as the scan can sometimes take 30 seconds to a minute in order to complete. Once the scan is finished, this page will display information about the iPad in your hand, your antenna devices, your edge box or boxes, your smart camera, or your wireless camera, and most importantly, all other devices currently connected to the network. This information is extremely helpful to determine if there are issues on your network causing the system to operate slowly or cause video lag for the end zone controls. Look for any data that might show up in red text, as this is an indicator of a problem. The most common problems will show themselves in the name, model, or Wi-Fi % section of this device or connected devices. Look for a device that shouldn't be on the network, like a phone or an old iPad model. Also check to see if a device has a low Wi-Fi %, meaning it's currently poorly connected to the nearest iPad antenna. If this is the case, we recommend turning that device's Wi-Fi off, moving the device back into a good range of the antenna, and then reconnecting to the correct SportScope network for that device, such as Sideline for iPads on the Sideline, Pressbox for iPads in the Pressbox, or just the standard SportScope network if you have a wireless or Edge OneView system. The System Info page is a great tool, but just because nothing appears in red doesn't mean there aren't other network issues going on. It's only an indicator of some variables intended to identify more common issues. The System Info page is also covered in more detail in its own Help Center article called How to Use the System Info page. Thanks for watching our app overview video, And remember, there are plenty of articles covering each of these topics individually, so be sure to refer to them if you're in need of a brief review in the future. Happy clipping!